Hello everyone, welcome to Maple Street and to the 4th annual Alfies Awards Show. I hope you enjoyed that little introduction. That is a tribute to the movies that I saw for the first time in 2023, because that's what the Alfies Awards Show is all about. It is honoring my first time watches regardless of the year they came out. The only thing they need is to be a full-length feature film and they qualify to be nominated in this award show. If you haven't seen previous award shows, I'll tell you right now, I have specific categories that are unique to my show, but also very similar to other award shows you're familiar with. This is my way of paying tribute to the wonderful and in some cases awful movies that I saw in 2023. It's called the Alfies after my favorite movie director of all time, Alfred Hitchcock. In fact, behind me I have here the different years I've done the Alfies, as well as a figure for the winners of each year. Maybe I'll go into more detail on that in another video. That's not what we're here for today. We're here to crown the best picture for 2023. This is my favorite video I make all year. I look forward to this. I prepare for this. I have my own Excel sheet where I keep track of my favorite performances, my favorite animated movies, my favorite foreign language films, all to lead to this video where I can award each movie and actor or character, whatever it may be. The biggest update this year, I have 2 new categories in my favorite documentary of the year and my favorite movie score. And the other new thing starting this year is I want to take time to shout out specific movies, and then at the end of the award show, I want to share some trivia that makes this award show unique to others. So let's start out with my shout outs. The longest movie I watched this year was Showa, sitting at 9 hours 26 minutes. Yes, I watched it in several sittings. The shortest movie I watched this year that still counted as a feature-length film was Rhapsody Street Kids Believe in Santa. This year also had the honor of my first foreign film in theaters, which is way overdue because I love foreign films, but that goes to Godzilla Minus One. That was an awesome experience. I also experienced my first anime in theaters, and that goes to The Boy and the Heron. Finally, rather than have a traditional category for my weirdest watch of the year, I'm just going to give a shout out to the weirdest watch of the year, and that is Greener Grass from 2019. If you've seen the movie, you know it is a peculiar ride, and it's also a very fun ride. The reason I am straying away from having this category is because I want to have categories that I know I can go into each year having nominees, whereas the weirdest watch award, it's not a guarantee that I'm going to have 5 weird watches. And so for now, I'm just going to leave it as a shout out, like, oh, the weirdest watch, fun fact, it was this movie. Okay, those are all the shout outs I have, so let's get started with the official nominees. As is tradition, we are starting with my favorite movie character of the year. This year, I made a few changes. Not only am I highlighting the character, but I also assigned a Hogwarts house to them based off their personality traits. The nominees are Barry Egan, Punch Drunk Love. I assigned him Gryffindor for his courage and bravery. Elle Woods, Legally Blonde. I assigned her Hufflepuff for her honesty and integrity. Elliot Nash, The Gazebo. This one was a little tough because it could have gone either way. I could see him getting Ravenclaw for his cleverness or Hufflepuff for his loyalty. I ended up going Hufflepuff. Luke Jackson, Cool Hand Luke. This one was pretty easy. I went Gryffindor for his courage to stand up to the big boss and also his bravery. And Paul Hunnam, The Holdovers. I gave him Ravenclaw for obvious reasons. He's very knowledgeable and full of wisdom. And the Alfie goes to Luke Jackson, Cool Hand Luke.
Gryffindor wins!
I love a good character who sticks to their guns, who stands up for what they believe in, and Luke Jackson is arguably one of the best characters in movie history to be known for that. So this was a pretty easy win. The next category is Favorite TV Show of the Year. The nominees are Ahsoka, a show that takes its time, but when it delivers, man, does it deliver. The Legend of Korra, a worthy sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender, with likable characters and even more likable villains. Midnight Mass, an engaging thriller from Mike Flanagan, whose unpredictability is one of its strengths. The Rehearsal, Nathan Fielder brings another hit full of funny moments and ridiculous scenarios. And Star Wars Rebels. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is not winning, but I only watched 6 shows in 2023, and Mandalorian Season 3 definitely wasn't making it. Sorry, my one-line statement is, the great episodes are rare, but when they appear, it's some of the best Star Wars content ever. And the Alfie goes to Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass was an amazing experience. It shows that Mike Flanagan continues to crank out amazing TV shows. I think what I loved most about Midnight Mass was how contained it was. It's very claustrophobic in the sense of being set on an island. It's also very unpredictable, and I loved watching each episode and finding out new things by the end of the episode. You go through a lot of emotional stuff too with the characters, which is always a plus because it keeps the viewer engaged. We're now going to segue into traditional movie categories, starting off with a bang, the worst watch of the year. The nominees are The Big Sleep. Bad acting, bad writing, bad characters. The only good thing is Jimmy Stewart's limited screen time. Monkey Business. I'm sorry to the Marx Brothers fans, but I simply cannot stand them. Rhapsody Street Kids. Believe in Santa. Some of the wackiest animation I've seen and laziest voice acting I've heard, and I ironically loved every second. The Thing with Two Heads. Definitely a new member for weirdest movies I've ever seen. Ray Milland is hilarious, but nothing could be funnier than this movie actually existing. And The Uncanny. What I hoped to be a campy, fun horror anthology film was campy and dumb. Very boring and awful acting. And the Alfie goes to The Big Sleep. I kind of feel bad for Robert Mitchum. This is his second year in a row winning Worst Watch of the Year. The guy is a great actor, but man, was he in some bad movies. Our first new category, Best Score. The nominees are Joby Talbot, Wonka. Favorite tracks include Pure Imagination, opening title version, Mama's Secret, and Wonka's Case. Lalo Schifrin, Cool Hand Luke. Favorite tracks include Main Title, Plastic Jesus, and Egg Eating Contest. Ludwig Göransson, Oppenheimer. Favorite tracks include Can You Hear the Music, American Prometheus, and Kitty Comes to Testify. Thomas Newman, Road to Perdition. Favorite tracks include Rock Island 1931, Road to Chicago, and Meet McGuire. And Volker Bertelmann, All Quiet on the Western Front. Favorite tracks include Remains, Comrades, and Flares. And the Alfie goes to Ludwig Göransson, Oppenheimer. This was the track that I had on repeat. It's one that I listened to at work, and it actually gave me a lot of motivation while I was working. I felt like I was a scientist, even though my field has nothing to do with science. Next category, my favorite animated movie of the year. The nominees are Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. I'm not even joking when I say this was one of the creepiest movies I saw in 2023. And I mean that as a compliment. The Land Before Time. Beautiful 2D animation, a sweet story, and dinosaurs. Yes, dinosaurs is one of the benefiting factors. Only Yesterday, a very sweet story that encapsulates nostalgia so beautifully. The end credit sequence is a movie in itself. Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse, a worthy sequel with breathtaking animation that raised the stakes and made me even happier to be a Spider-Man fan. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, a fun hangout movie with stunning animation, likable characters, and a killer score. And the Alfie goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was always going to win this. It is an incredible accomplishment and an incredible movie. I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Our next category, Best Foreign Film. The nominees are Afterlife, a unique experience that forces the audience to consider, what is my most important memory of all time? All Quiet on the Western Front, a tragic view of what war really is. Horrifying. There's nothing heroic about it, and this movie successfully proves that. Fanny, an amazing sequel that improves upon Marius through being funnier and having better character arcs. Purple Noon, a suspenseful mystery that could be mistaken for a Hitchcock film, but still stands as its own entity. And The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, a beautiful romantic musical that especially excels on the score and the colors. And the Alfie goes to All Quiet on the Western Front. This was a visceral experience, it was a tragic experience, and it's one that I will not forget anytime soon. The next category, Best Documentary. But before we get on to this year's nominations, I actually want to retrospectively award my favorite documentaries of every year I've done the Alfies Awards Show. I'm not one to rewatch documentaries, my opinion on them usually stays the same, and so I can confidently look back at the documentaries I watched from each year and identify my favorite of each year. For 2020, it goes to Dick Johnson Is Dead. For 2021, I am giving it to Charles Law and directs The Night of the Hunter. For 2022, I'm giving it to the Harry Potter 20th Anniversary Return to Hogwarts special. And now for this year's nominees, my favorite documentary I watched in 2023. The nominees are Camera Person, such a unique perspective on the world and arguably a good history/geography lecture. David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived. I ate up all the Harry Potter behind the scenes footage and was moved by David's story. Hot Potato, Enjo, the story of the Wiggles. The first half especially grabbed my attention as it felt like a portal to my childhood. I loved getting to know these wacky Australians better. Ingrid Bergman, in her own words. A rewarding look at one of the most iconic stars of all time that didn't shy away from praising and critiquing her. And Showa, a devastating, important, powerful, hard-to-watch experience that took multiple viewings to complete. And the Alfie goes to Showa. This is objectively, hands down, the greatest documentary I've ever seen, but I will never be watching it again. The next category is my favorite Criterion watch of the year. The nominees are The Manchurian Candidate. The first few minutes hooked me, the remainder successfully kept me engaged. Punch Drunk Love. An interesting look at an interesting fella. What makes Punch Drunk Love so good is its perspective on mental health and romance. Purple Noon. Hey, I already talked about this one. The Red Shoes. You could take all the emotion out of this movie and you would still have a beautiful looking film to appreciate, but the emotion definitely also makes it great. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Hey, what's the deal here? And the Alfie goes to Punch Drunk Love. I just had such a great time watching it. It's a feel-good movie. It's an amazing romance film, and Adam Sandler gives a great performance. That's coming from someone who's not a fan of the guy. And his movie just won an Alfie. This is crazy. I never thought I would make it here. The next category, my favorite new release of the year. So my favorite movie that came out in 2023. The nominees are The Holdovers. I don't care what Alexander Payne says, this is such a cozy movie. I have no doubt this will become a rewatchable Christmas movie in the future. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. A worthy adaptation of the book, with a standout performance from Tom Blythe. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. A movie with action, humor, and oh boy, there's plenty of heart. I'm still not recovered from a certain scene. Oppenheimer. My first 70mm IMAX experience, and what a way to start. I saw it twice and it was equally amazing each time. And Wonka, the happy musical I didn't know I needed. Paul King can make anything and I'll be there for him. And the Alfie goes to Oppenheimer. I mean, it was just such a great experience. I couldn't not award this movie. I loved it so much. And fun fact, I actually saw all these nominees twice, except for Mission Impossible. Sorry. It's a great movie. I'll rewatch it someday. All right, let's get into some acting categories. The nominees for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role are Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple, a moving performance that highlights Brooks' talent on many levels. Divine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers, a fine combination of subtlety and bluntness, with the cherry on top being the scenes she mourns her son. Marcia Gay Harden, Mystic River. She steals every scene she's in with her believable and visible stress and anxiety. Olivia de Havilland, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. A perfect role to highlight de Havilland's range as an actor, specifically her ability to show kindness and frustration. And Sandy Dennis, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. A devastating, layered performance that requires many emotions, including anguish, regret, and curiosity. And the Alfie goes to Sandy Dennis from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. All these nominations were very good, and I want to still pay tribute to them, but Sandy Dennis, man, not only my favorite supporting performance by an actress this year, but just one of my favorite performances of all time, and I mean that. She was incredible in this movie. The nominees for Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role. Burl Ives, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Burl continues to prove he's a powerful acting force with a nomination last year and a repeat nomination this year. George Kennedy, Cool Hand Luke. What initially seems to be a dumb bully role transforms into an endearing side character you grow to like, and it's Kennedy to thank for. George Siegel, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. A crucial piece in the puzzle to making this movie work as well as it does. His shocked expressions is something that lives rent-free in my head. Jackie Gleason, Requiem for a Heavyweight. It's Gleason's subtlety that allows him to successfully play the cool guy, broken guy, and desperate guy. And Richard Attenborough, Miracle on 34th Street. A performance that does justice to the Santa Claus character and excels at making the audience smile. And the Alfie goes to George Kennedy, Cool Hand Luke. I love George Kennedy's character, and it was because of his performance. I just loved seeing his development from truly being that dumb bully that I mentioned to being that right-hand man to Luke Jackson. It was amazing. Let's move on to Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role. The nominees are Bette Davis, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. In the conversation from my favorite Bette Davis performance, she completely sells the layered character that Charlotte is. Elizabeth Taylor, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. This is my favorite Elizabeth Taylor performance. She somehow somehow pulls off being insanely dislikable, but yet I still want to give her a hug by the end. Jocelyn DeBoer, Greener Grass. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. A performance that seems simple on paper, but really needs to be executed precisely to match the movie's eeriness, and Jocelyn really sells that. Keira Knightley, Pride and Prejudice. It's the fact that she's prideful, yet I still root for her the entire time. Her performance is so easy to fall in love with. And Oraine Damazis, Caesar. By the time Caesar rolls along, Damazis has been playing the same character for 3 movies, yet it's in this entry that she does her best. Her character has been through so much, and even with no context, one could tell through her performance. And the Alfie goes to Elizabeth Taylor, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I'm not gonna lie, I mentioned that Spider-Verse was a lock, Sandy Dennis was a lock. This was my #1 lock of the season. When I saw Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I was like, I hate to say it, but no other actress has a chance. This is my favorite lead actress performance of the year, and easily one of my favorite performances of all time. The nominees for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role are Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. For me, it's the little moments, the hesitations, the deep thoughts, the subtle eye movements. The small things lead to something really great. Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers. An emotional performance for a character who loves to hide his emotions. Paul Giamatti is a powerhouse and a welcome addition to the Alfie nominee club. Paul Newman, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Newman succeeds at playing the beaten down hero of sorts, and it's because of his ability to truly show emotion and transform into the role of Brick. Paul Newman. Have you gotten tired of Paul's yet? Cool Hand Luke. Not only is Newman able to express emotion, but he's able to save enough room for simply being cool. There are many levels to playing Luke Jackson. Newman passes them all. And Richard Burton, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. A draining performance that requires yelling, crying, laughing, and even in some cases dancing. Burton is great at all of the above. And the Alfie goes to Paul Newman, Cool Hand Luke. I loved his performance in this movie. I think he succeeded at playing every emotion he needed to, with the standout being the scene where he sings Plastic Jesus. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to the final 4 categories of the award show. These are the biggest categories in my mind. This is where we honor the actor of the year, the actress of the year, the director of the year, and obviously my favorite movie, aka Best Picture of the Year. Let's get things rolling with the actors of the year. So when I go over these actors, I will highlight some of my favorite watches from them. I'll include the count of how many movies I saw from them, as well as the average amount of stars I gave their movies out of 5. So let's get started with Actress of the Year. The nominees are Elizabeth Taylor. Highlights included Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and Father of the Bride. Ginger Rogers. Highlights included Stage Door, Vivacious Lady, and Shall We Dance? Janet Leigh. Highlights included The Manchurian Candidate, Scaramouche, and Halloween H2O 20 years later. Myrna Loy. Highlights included The Thin Man, After the Thin Man, and get this, Another Thin Man. And Olivia de Havilland. Highlights included Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, To Each His Own, and The Adventures of Robin Hood. And the Alfie for Actress of the Year goes to Olivia de Havilland. Last year when Olivia de Havilland won my best performance by an actress in a leading role for her performance in The Heiress, something happened to me. It was that feeling you get when you discover a new favorite. And I knew that the following year I would make it a point to see as many movies as I could from her. And I ended up seeing 15 movies for the first time. It was incredible. I loved watching her this year. She really is an incredible actress. I'm looking forward to continuing her filmography, both first-time watches and rewatches, but for now, I have to award her my Actress of the Year. Now let's move on to Actor of the Year. The nominees are Cary Grant. Highlights included An Affair to Remember, My Favorite Wife, and Penny Serenade. Paul Newman. Highlights included Cool Hand Luke, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and The Verdict. Raymond. Highlights included the Marseille trilogy and The Baker's Wife. Yes, I said all 4 movies, but it's because one of them are a trilogy. Thomas Mitchell. Highlights included Alias Nick Beale, Out of the Fog, and The Dark Mirror. And William Powell. Highlights included The Thin Man, After the Thin Man, and believe it or not, Mr. Roberts. I bet you're expecting me to say another Thin Man movie. I really liked Mr. Roberts. I had to include that. And the Alfie for Actor of the Year goes to Paul Newman. My winners for Actor of the Year this year, Olivia and Paul, are very interesting in that I had seen both actors' filmographies in the past. I'd seen movies from their filmography, but it was this year that it really just clicked for me, that I realized I love both of them. Paul Newman specifically was incredible to watch. I think it was actually me watching him in Cool Hand Luke that is what clicked. I loved his character so much and I loved rooting for him that it made me want to watch more and more of his filmography, which led me to not only discover new movies but also rewatch the movies I had already seen. I absolutely loved watching his filmography this year, and I hope to include him as a star of the month in 2024. Next up, the Director of the Year. The nominees for Director of the Year are John Ford. Highlights include Mr. Roberts, The Hurricane, and The Long Voyage Home. Richard Brooks. Highlights include Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, The Catered Affair, and Sweet Bird of Youth. Robert Wise. Highlights include The Setup, Odds Against Tomorrow, and Somebody Up There Likes Me. Sidney Lumet. Highlights included The Verdict, The Hill, and Running on Empty. And W.S. Van Dyke. Highlights included The Thin Man, After the Thin Man, and Say It With Me, Another Thin Man. And the Alfie for Favorite Director of the Year goes to Robert Wise. I saw 4 movies from him, and 2 out of the 4 were 9 out of 10s for me. The funny thing is, I didn't have any intention of watching his filmography. It just sort of happened, and every movie that I saw was really good. In fact, I highlighted Somebody Up There Likes Me as my 3rd movie, but really I could highlight everything because I gave both Somebody Up There Likes Me and The Haunting an 8 out of 10. And so every movie I watched from him this year was at least great in my eyes. Whereas the other directors, they had some movies that were just fine. Also, to go along with Robert Wise's win, I thought it was very fitting that last year I bought actually a signed photograph of him. He won the Alfie for Director of the Year, and I have an autographed photo of him framed. It's incredible. I love the guy, and I want to watch more and more of his movies now. And we made it to the end. My favorite movie of the year. The nominees for Best Picture are All Quiet on the Western Front. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
I'll outlive you. I'll bury you. I'll buy your coffin.
That's right, Big Daddy. Many happy returns.
Cool Hand Luke.
Who's sitting here next to my boy? Cool Hand Luke.
The Holdovers.
Oh. Presto, Cherry's Jubilee.
Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte.
What do you think I asked you here for? Company?
Oppenheimer. Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Bum, 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 bum.
The Setup.
Hey, Stoker. Good luck.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? And Wonka. And the Alfie for Best Picture goes to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? This movie wrecked me in the best way possible. The first time I saw this movie, I was drained by the end of it. I actually had to pause the movie and take a little break because it was just such a heavy experience. This movie is emotional. I don't even know that I would call it funny because any jokes cracked are against another person. It's an insane ride. And somehow, no matter how much I hate these characters, the movie ends and I feel like just crying because there's still some sort of love I have towards them and I just want things to work out for them. I rewatched it at the end of last year because I wanted to confirm that this was in fact my favorite movie of the year. I got that confirmation obviously, but one thing I noticed on the rewatch was even when I hear that main title that kicks off right when you start the movie, I just know that I'm in for something. And it's interesting because I experienced that the first time I saw it and the second time I saw it. I mean, obviously the second time because I knew what was coming, but even the first time, not knowing what I was getting myself into, just hearing that main theme, I knew I was in for something. I was in for an experience that would be memorable. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was the first 10 out of 10 movie I saw last year, and it remained the best movie consistently with every movie I saw. I'm happy to award it my favorite movie of the year, the highest honor that I could give to it. It really is the best movie that I saw, and my favorite movie too. Now, we've been through the awards show, we've gone through the categories, the nominees, we've announced the winners, but I want to share some trivia with you. Just some fun trivia to close the night out. So I'm just going to share some fun facts. I hope you're still comfortable because I'm going to be here for a few more minutes. Earlier, you saw that opening tribute video where I talked about, how many watches I had, my most watched year, all that fun stuff. I do need to make a clarification. When I say my most watched year, I excluded the current year, so 2023 was excluded because no matter what, every single year I do this, the current year is going to be the most watched year. It just is. That's inevitable. And so I decided, okay, what's my second most watched year? Because that's where it gets interesting. So 1956 was the second most watched year, but the most watched year if you exclude the current year. Some other trivia. This is the first year that my winner for character of the year went on to win best performance for portraying that character. Another fun fact, Paul Newman is the second actor to be featured in the same category twice. Glenn Ford was the first actor last year. They both won actor of the year as well. Okay, my camera light is dying, so I'm going to try to go very fast through these fun facts. With 4 award shows in the books, I now have 2 winners that are black and white movies and 2 winners that are color movies, so it will be really interesting to see what wins the 5th award show. This is the first year that Charles Laughton was not nominated in any of the acting categories. Trust me, I still love the guy, I just didn't watch as many movies from him last year. This is the first year a Criterion release was not nominated for Best Picture. And that's all I have. Thank you all so much for joining me for another award show. I love doing these. Leave your comments below on what you thought of the award show, what you would have had win. You're not going to change my mind though because it's my award show. But thank you all so much for watching this. I realize this is a very subjective video talking about, my personal taste and the movies that I watched, and so you may not be able to relate to it as much, but I really do appreciate the support and the views, the comments. As always, just thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed your stay on Maple Street. Have a great day.